Okay, Assalamualaikum dan selamat malam recording malam So we'll continue on to the 16th topic, which is making sure that all works, everything works for our protection system. So after you all have installed all the protection system, switchgear, motor, transformer, and all the electrical equipment, so this is the final test for your equipment, which is your SAT or your commissioning test. Commissioning to prove whether the equipment installed works as per design, to ensure that the equipment is not damaged, to establish all electrical equipment connections are properly made, to make sure that the required safety standard is met. So this is on commissioning test. So what is required for us to do commissioning? So there are specifications where the specifications of the equipment have been written out in the during the initial stage of the project, and the drawings, the final drawings which is normally we will refer this to the vendor drawings. The schematics, protection philosophy, block diagrams, and the operation and maintenance instruction, relay settings and parameter settings. This is very important. And then you also need program to access static or microprocessor relay settings and logic. So if you're using, for example, CProtect 4, Siemens relay CProtect 4, then you will require Dixie program. Or if you are using for Schneider, you can just download from Schneider website, or GE, you can just download from GE Multilink website. They are free. Okay. Then special communication cable to access the relay. Some relays, modern relays, we can just use the normal RJ45 TCP/IP cable. But some relays, they require maybe Modbus RS232 or RS485 connection. RS232. Then you have to check whether it's a normal cable, straight cable means point to point, or is there any twisted pair in that cable connection. And finally is the overall testing program, or one is the inspection test plan for your equipment individually, and the last one is the overall testing program, where you test all the equipment as an integrated system, especially for the functional testing and so on. So these are the requirements for commissioning. So the methodology is pretty much straightforward. So we will start with physical inspection, looking at the visual inspection of the equipment, whether all the connections have been torqued properly. Is there any brace or cut on the cables or on the termination, and so on. So it's more physical inspection, it's more on the visual inspection. And there are some tests that is included in the physical inspection, such as torque check, cable pull test. What else? Physical, that's mainly . Second part is the insulation test. So insulation test may consist as simple as the insulation resistance, then followed by polarization index, mostly for winding equipments, for motor and generator. And for high voltage machines, for high voltage transformers and switch gears, we'll add further tests, such as AC high port 50 Hz, or VLF for cable, or tangent delta. So it depends on what kind of test that the client has specified in the engineering specification. And then we will have a CT test to test the CT, VT test, secondary injection, primary injection, then stability test to check for differential relay, and also to check whether your CT is correctly arranged in terms of its polarity, and functional test. This functional test is mainly for your for the switch gear and the motor and so on. and the final inspection, and finally is once energized is the on-load test lah. Okay, the final inspection is before energization lah. Okay, so physical inspection is confirming the rating of the nameplate, visual inspection, tightness check, torque wrench, using the torque wrench, and then cleanliness check lah, make sure there's no debris, there's no dust, there's no leftover tools being left within the compartment of the terminal box, within the switchgear or the transformer terminal compartment. So these are the very basic physical inspection lah. Okay, and then some things that you might gain only from experience are things like looking at whether the clearance and the creepage distance are enough or not. This normally happens at the cable termination lah, because cable termination is being done at site. If it's on the switchgear or on the transformer terminal box or the motor terminal box, normally this has been catered in the design. But for cable termination, whether at the switchgear or transformer, so this cable termination is being done at site. So it is up to the experience of that cable jointer lah. So we as an engineer or as a technician, we should also know what is the quality of the cable jointing or cable termination that we should expect from the cable jointer's work lah. So this is also another part of the physical inspection. Make sure that the cable termination, there's no crisscrossing for a 3-core. For example, there's for a 3-core cable, there's no crisscrossing from one phase to another phase to minimize any partial discharge activity lah in the long run. Make sure the earthing is correctly installed. If the earth braided wire is should be going through the ZCT, core balance CT, so things like that lah. These are the things that require physical inspection. Okay, then we have the insulation test, which is the IR test, DC 500 volt, 2.5 kV, 5 kV. Even now we have IR test up to 10 kV and 15 kV. So typically we will only do up to 5 kV lah. 500 volt is for low voltage, 2.5 kV is up to 4.6 kV rated equipment. This is based on Petronas technical standard, and 5 kV is for anything above 4.6 kV voltage rated equipment. Okay. Then we will do also polarization index. Polarization index is mainly for the machine, like generator or motors. Some fellow also propose PI for a transformer, but sometimes the reading of a PI for transformer may be misleading, because you might not get as high as even 1.5 for a maintenance acceptance. For commissioning, normally we require a minimum of PI of 2.0. For maintenance is around 1.5. So for transformer it's a little bit misleading, but you can do it just to have a training for that. Okay. Third is the high voltage test. So you can have a DC high port, AC high port 50 Hz or VLF lah. This is so normally for long cable or for long cable you normally do a VLF or a DC high port test. Okay, next is partial discharge, tangent delta. This one are tests that considered as optional, but normally we would do this test during the commissioning as a baseline for us to refer in the future. Okay, so tangent delta we can refer to the NPD, can refer to the IEEE standard on the acceptance criteria and the values lah for various electrical equipment. Surge comparison test is mainly for motors and generators. For transformers, we also have this similar test, which is the SFRA lah. Okay, the frequency response analysis. Okay, so that is pretty much insulation test. So normally what you do during your commissioning, you'll do the minimum IR test, PI if you have machine, and transformer if you like to do it, and the third test will be the high voltage test lah, the AC high port, DC high port lah. But for low voltage, normally we don't do high voltage test lah. For anything MV, we'll do it at site. Okay. So these are the 3 tests that normally minimum really required for commissioning of the equipment lah. So this test, as you can see, it means to test the insulation of the equipment. All these tests are to test the insulation of the equipment, whether the insulation is good or not good lah. Okay. CT and VT tests, we have for CT there's 5 tests. Actually there's 6, but so here 6 tests lah. So CT test is polarity test, ratio test, magnetization test, insulation resistance, and also AC high port. This one is for high voltage CTs, and also DC winding, the CT DC resistance lah. Okay. For VT, the tests are similar to the power transformer testing, ratio test, DC resistance, and insulation resistance test. If it's a high voltage, we'll include also the high voltage test in the VT testing. Alright. So let's see for the CT test, how to check the polarity test. So one of the easiest tests to check the polarity is using a flick test, CT flick test. So you will connect a battery to the primary circuit with a switch, and you connect an emitter to the secondary circuit. So this emitter will be an emitter with a positive and negative scale. So when you switch on and off the switch, you will know the direction of the CT, whether it is correct or not lah. So by right, for example, if you are testing this for red, yellow, blue and neutral phase of an LED busbar CTs, so you must make sure that when you connect the batteries and the emitter in the same connection for all these 4 phases, so you must make sure that when you flick on and off the switch, the direction of the CT, the emitter must be pointing in the same direction. If one of the CTs are not pointing in the same direction, means there could be a problem in terms of connecting maybe on the secondary side S1, S2, or on the P1, P2 side lah, which is unlikely lah. Normally the mistake is on the secondary side lah. Okay. So this is the flick test lah, to check the polarity of individual CT. Alright. Okay. So CT primary test, this is to test the ratio test. So you'll have a primary injection test set. For example, if this is 40 amps, 40/5 amp CT, so you will inject 40 amps on the primary. So on the secondary, you should be reading 5 amps, and you also have a reference CT and emitter lah, just to verify that. Make sure that this is also reading 5 amps on the secondary. Okay, so this is ratio test, to check to confirm the ratio of the CT lah. Third is the CT magnetizing test, or what we call as the knee point curve test. So this CT magnetizing test can be done on all type of CTs, whether it's a metering CT, protection CT, or the class PX or class X CTs. So the testing arrangement will be, you will be injecting voltage across the CT secondary. Then one of the emitter will be measuring the excitation current to the CT. Then you will plot excitation voltage versus the excitation current. There will be a point which we call this as a knee point. Knee point is a change of 10% in excitation voltage, which causes a 50% in terms of excitation current. So that is the starting of that knee point. So the stable and operating region of the CT would be below this knee point. Okay, so anything above this knee point is considered to say that the CT may be saturated. Alright. So anything below the knee point, the CT should be working and functioning well within the tolerance and error of its CT rating. Alright. Then we have secondary injection test to check for each release pickup current, reset value, dropout. This is for all type electromechanical relay. For new type relays, you can enable this within the relay, but normally the reset value or dropout time is instantaneous. And then also to check for the time of operation, whether it's for instantaneous or the IDMT and so on lah. So instantaneous, it's not really instantaneous. There's at most 40 to 50 milliseconds delay. For IDMT, you have to refer back to the curve. What type of curve? Whether it's IEC, ANSI, IEEE, and so on. And the time setting multiplier, the time multiplier setting, TMS. So you can use of secondary test set with a current source or voltage source and a timer to check operation time, and meters to measure the values, the secondary current and so on. But these are the old style where you have to provide one by one. Nowadays you can just buy an Omicron or any China brand secondary injection test set, and everything is embedded there. Okay, you don't have to write down anything. You just do the test. 10 relays, 20 relays, 100 relays. Make sure the tagging is input correctly for every test. Then you can just print out the test results. No need to write down and transfer all the data from your hard copy back to the soft copy online. Okay, that's secondary injection test. So primary injection test, the purpose is to establish the CT ratio. Second is to prove that the CTs are correctly connected, especially for earth fault scheme that is using summation or residual type connection. And also to confirm the stability of the unit protection scheme. So we will use primary injection test. So in this case, let's see. This can indirectly also test the earth fault. Okay. So number one, you can test for the overcurrent. So when you are injecting here, the I primary is going through here, through the red phase and returning through the yellow phase to the test set. So the overcurrent for the red and yellow will pick up. Blue because there's no current. So if one of the CTs is in reverse connection, S1, S2, or the primary connection is reverse, so the summation point at this point between red and yellow will not be 0. So the current will become double and may trigger 51G. So indirectly you can check whether the earth fault connection is correct or not. So you will check for red, yellow, return, then yellow, blue, then you know, then you test for red, blue, then you know that you can confirm whether the connections and the polarity are correct for the CTs. Okay. So this is primary injection test for single phase injection. Means you just inject into one phase. So one side will be connected to P1, the other side will be connected to the P2 side of the primary injection. Okay. So in this case, not only if you're injecting here at yellow phase, since yellow phase has no 51 IDMT, so it will trigger only 51G, which is the earth fault. But if you're injecting here single phase at the red phase, 51 will pick up as well as 51G depending on the pickup current. Alright. So for stability test, normally you will use the primary injection to test before the CT and after CT which is to test within zone and out of the zone. So that is the stability test using primary injection for differential protection scheme. So this is a stability test. No, it's only done for unit protection or differential protection to prove that the relay is stable for external faults. So what you do is that you will inject the CT, you inject the primary side. You need to bypass here. You need to bypass here because the primary injection cannot push the current going through the winding because the winding is too high impedance for the primary injection test set to push the current through. Because even though the current coming out of the primary test set is 800 amps, 1000 amps, the voltage across it is very small, maybe 10 volts, 50 volts or so lah. So if you want to push that current across an 11 kV winding, so that will not be possible lah. So that's why you have to short at the transformer terminal. So this is for outzone protection. For outzone, so we'll inject outzone. You inject from this side, and then you LVAC supply, and then you will short on the before the CT of the secondary or the primary. So then you will check whether it's stable or not. So this is for differential CT, differential protection. So if you are using this for REF, for example, if there's an REF, one additional CT here to be summed between these three CTs and this REF, you must also do the stability test for the REF CT here. Because REF CT you will know only the direction whether it's correct or not when there's an fault. So the problem would be that when there's an external fault, your REF is triggered because the CT here is connected in the reverse direction. Okay. So this is a typical stability test result, as you can see here. So you have your relay M, HV, LV. So for outzone, you want to make sure that the operating current is almost zero. So this is outzone. They are simulating outzone primary injection. So primary side is seeing 100 amps, secondary side is also seeing 100 milliamps. This is in terms of secondary. So there's no differential current. So that's why it's almost zero, 0, 1, 0 amp. Where else when there's an in-zone protection, the primary side of the transformer is looking at some current, 100 milliamps, while on the secondary side it's not reading any current, so there will be an operating current which may be enough to trigger the differential. And normally this will be done and tested at various step position for transformers. Okay, so what is written here? So differential tap. So current transformer ratio is very important. Test at nominal tap. Alright. So if you are testing at different tap for differential, you will get a little bit different result. This is due to the ratio of the transformer. So you have to calculate back and based on the actual tap where the transformer is at that point of testing. Then we also have a functional test. So purpose is to check that all trips and alarm circuits, to check all the interlocks and intertrips from upstream, downstream to upstream, and check the protection philosophy for the breaker open and tripping. For example, if you are having this philosophy of two incomers normally open and a bus section normally closed, two incomers normally closed and bus section normally open, so you would like to test the changeover or the auto transfer scheme to make sure that it works as per your philosophy, and also check for auto transfer scheme. Okay, and then check the operational and mechanical parts of the switchgear. So this functional test will also verify the operational and mechanical parts of the switchgear. So these tests are still being done offline. Means the switchgears are still not online yet. So you are only testing the switchgears with auxiliary supply 110 DC or 110 AC, 240 AC from external supply. Then on-load test after energizing. This is once you've done all the high port, the insulation test, then do the functional test, and the electrical service contractor with the electrical service engineer, they bring you the form H as per electrical regulation 94. So the form H will be signed by the electrical service contractor, telling you that the equipment or the electrical system is safe to be energized after all these tests have been done. So once you energize, you will do some measurement and checking of the of the equipment. For example, once you switch it on, measure the secondary VT voltage and check the phase rotation of the VT outputs. Okay, these are mainly for high voltage lah. For low voltage, you can check the phase rotation directly without any VT lah. So you must make sure that all are going in terms of clockwise lah, clockwise. And then live phasing for systems to be in parallel. These are for air insulated switchgear where you can still do live phasing. So for high voltage equipment that is there's no facility for you to do live phasing, for example like 33 kV and above gas insulated switchgears, so you don't have any points. You must make sure that there's another way of doing the live phasing which is, we call it as a close on that bus or blank phasing test okay, but that is not explained here so this is just the typical live phasing So for 33 and 132 kV, you must make sure that the secondary circuit of the VT are all correct. If not, it will give you the wrong reading and you might close and parallel your high voltage system to a face-to-face fault, okay, because of the wrong connection of the secondary VTs, okay. You also check the meter's functionalities. Maybe there was some error in terms of the ratio set within the relay, and check the relay currents and monitor the temperature rise of the equipment. This is for motor and transformer lah. Once you loaded up them, you will monitor the motor and transformer temperature rise to see that they will rise and stabilize within a stable and operating temperature. And for the next 24 hours to 72 hours, normally you will place someone to oversee the progress of the on-load test, and also listen and smell for any abnormal sound because sometimes the fault may happen immediately right after you energize, but sometimes the fault may happen a few days later or months later So months later you cannot detect from just listening. So that's why you must make sure that your protection is there to protect the equipment from total failure, not from failing, but from total failure. Because once your protection has tripped, means something is wrong already. But the protection is tripping before the equipment goes beyond beyond repair okay. Alright, as a part of management and safety, you always see electrical incidents or accidents that happen to someone. That someone is normally someone who has worked for a very long time, very experienced. Everything is at the back of their mind. But sometimes when it is at the back of their mind, everything is embedded in their mind, so they may forget or skip some safety steps, which because this is part of the habit If you do not work carefully, then the habit will become that you will not work carefully. So as you can see here, he has worked for 30 years and only had one accident. And where has he ended up Okay, we don't want this thing to happen, so let's equip ourselves with knowledge, be patient, do whatever necessary tests that is required, and of course schedule is number one, but safety is always before number one. So safety. So make sure that when you are doing any electrical commissioning, electrical testing, it must be done by electrical service contractor. If you are doing electrical installation, dead installation, it must be done by electrical private wiring unit or electrical contractor. Private wiring unit can do only electrical installation for low voltage. So anything above low voltage, electrical contractor Any test, whether it's low voltage or high voltage, must be done by service contractor. And then all the competent person working in doing all this electrical work must be a registered competent person such as a cable jointer to perform any cable jointing and termination in Malaysia. So we have PK1 up to PK6, pencantum kabel 1, pencantum kabel 2. So same like jurutera electrical competent lah. So PK1 I think is for low voltage, PK2 is up to I think 11 kV or 3 okay, and so on lah. Then wireman, we have a lot of wireman, the single phase wireman PW1, PW2, then 3-phase wireman PW3, PW4, then a special wireman for the neon lighting PW5, okay. And then we also have chargeman from AO up to B4. So B4 you have B4 11 kV, B4 33 kV. So where you can check all this, whether they are still a registered electrical and service contractor or cable jointer, just go to our Suruhanjaya Tenaga website st.gov.my. In there, there's a link going to to check whether the license and registration is valid for the contractors and this competent person, and you can check lah. So if you are doing a tender evaluation, technical evaluation, you can check whether he says that the certificate is still valid, but when you check online, actually he has not renewed his registration for more than 3 to 5 years, or even some up to 10 years. Okay, so you have to be careful lah. So there must be a valid and registered service contractor and service electrical competent person. And make sure you have proper as-built drawing and test results. These are all proofs that you have done, you or the electrical contractor or you as a project engineer has done the commissioning work up to the standard and as accepted by the regulation. And finally, from the very beginning, always emphasize on safety, safety and safety. Always take care, not yourself only, but also others who are working. They may not be the competent person by working under an electrical competent person. So you must make sure that they also know and aware what are the dangers and where are the life and the dead part of the equipment before starting any work. If you are not sure, please ask. There's no stupid question in safety. Just ask, even if you think it's a stupid question. And finally, never skip a step. That's where it's important that you have a inspection and testing plan. If you are doing switching, make sure you have an electrical switching procedure. So of course, all these are being done by electrical competent person, and we rely on them for the safety of this equipment, or for the safety operation and commissioning of this system. But we too, even you too as a client, you need to know also what are the steps required for you to do commissioning. Okay. So if you think this material is good, please share this material to your electrical friends, and do subscribe to my YouTube channel, Crux of EE, and then my Facebook page. Please like my Facebook page, facebook.com/Crux of EE. And if you have any other questions, please throw them in the comments below, or you can email me directly at cruxofee@gmail.com. Thank you.